That is James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, I had Marc Tanguay on a little earlier, right?
Yes,
Saying
you did.
Beginning of the end for the CAQ. You're
I
suggesting
was yelling at my radio.
Why?
I haven't done that. Oh, actually, that's not true. I was yelling at my computer. I haven't done that in a while either. You know.
Why were you yelling?
Listen, you know what, Aaron? I think it's time that we change. Like, you know, we have a style book. How we refer to certain things. I think it's time to stop referring to Marc Tanguay as the interim leader of the Quebec Liberal Party and start calling him the custodian of the Quebec Liberal Party.
Okay.
You know, and I got nothing against Marc Tanguay. He's in a bit of a tough spot here. He's like the night watchman, right? He makes sure the boilers aren't overheating and the building doesn't explode, but he can't really do anything. And there has never been a better example of how the Quebec Liberal Party once again managed to absolutely shoot itself in the foot over and over and over again with the delay in choosing a leader than this week. Because here you are talking to Marc Tanguay, and you're saying, what about this by-election up in Terrebonne? Because, Fitzgibbon is gone now, and we're going to have... And he goes, quite rightly, I guess, he goes, well, our record in Terrebonne isn't that great, because before the CAQ had it was held by the PQ. Yeah. But here's the thing, Aaron, and that's when I began yelling at my computer. It's like, buddy, I don't know if you've checked the map lately. There's about 100 other ridings in Quebec where you can say exactly the same thing. So maybe you should start someplace, okay? Maybe you should start in Terrebonne. But all that said, I choked it all back because I realized no matter how clever a candidate the Liberals get, he or she is going to be handcuffed in terms of what they can promise or what they can say. Because why? Because the new leader will not be bound by any policy decision made by, the conventions of the rank and file. The new leader is not bound by any party resolution. The new leader will run on his or her vision for the Quebec Liberal Party. But we don't get to find out what that is until at least in the beginning, January, and we don't find out what it's going to be until next June. Oh, lucky us. How great that your rank and file, your average Quebecer is going to be waiting around saying, no, honey, don't do that. Let's see what the Quebec Liberals have to say about that first. Compare that reaction. And once again, I'm not slagging Marc Tanguay. Like I say, he's handcuffed in the job that he has to do. Compare the reaction of the Liberals this week to that of the Parti Québécois. They find out on Tuesday Fitzgibbon is leaving politics. There's going to be a by-election. They're up in Rouyn-Noranda, okay, having a pre-session meeting, and boom, they find out Terrebonne's going to be up for grabs. They don't know when. Legault's got 6 months to call a by-election. What do? They say, there's four of them in the whole caucus. They go, let's get a bus. They're in Rouyn-Noranda. Let's get a bus. It's 624 kilometers later, they're in Terrebonne in their bus campaigning. They don't even have a candidate. They haven't even chosen a candidate. They're out there campaigning. They managed to get 100 supporters out there to greet them in their bus. Okay, and what are they doing? Well, they're making themselves there. They're making themselves present. They're telling people the PQ cares about Terrebonne. They're not. They're hungry. They want this job. People notice that. Even people who don't like the PQ will notice that, because when you give a damn about what you're doing, okay, all of a sudden, and you have a cohesive unit with a leader, life gets a lot easier. I saw Mauro Risky as well this week, the energy critic for the Liberals, challenging François Legault to come and defend his energy plan in front of the Legislative Committee on energy. That said, that's fine, but these are individuals. There is no kind of idea that the Liberals are doing this. You've got these individual faces, these individual names, but there's no sense of moving from point A to point B. And that, I think, the Liberals have no one to blame but themselves for that situation. And whatever, Machiavel in the Brain Trust thought waiting until June of next year, there's going to be plenty of Liberal cabinet ministers like, Philippe Francois Champagne, we'd love to get him, who then turned around 2 weeks ago and said, I wouldn't touch he didn't say he wouldn't touch the job with a barge full, but that's kind of what he meant. So he's not touching that either. So there you go. We're going to be on hold. Anybody who cares about progressive, the perceived progressive policies of the Quebec Liberal Party, your call is important to us, but please be patient, because you have to wait until June of next year to find out what in the hell is going on.
You're right in a sense, Jim. It's interesting. Obviously the contrast between what the PQ are doing and what every other party isn't doing. It's not just the Liberals in this case, but you're right. I just wondered, to your point, It's almost, it seems too late to have to wait for some new blood to get in there to coalesce around one person and actually come up with some ideas. So I don't know. I mean, June's a long way off. When I brought up June, he said, no, in January, we're going to start looking. I'm not sure it changes anything.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't. Okay. Oh, January. Because, of course, everyone in Quebec in January is up to go out and attend rallies and do whatever. Or at that point, I hate to put it this way, is going to care a rat's fuzzy butt about what the Quebec Liberals have to say about anything whatsoever. They've been off the radar for so long. They're staying on the radar in terms of daily hits, on the National Assembly, and they'll get a headline, whatever. But the idea that, and I'm sorry, that's the way it works, this person is the Quebec Liberal Party. Like him or hate him, or like her or hate her, that's the person. You don't have that. The Quebec Liberal Party seems to be this ship with no captain, adrift, no course, just kind of like, trying to stay afloat, and everybody's supposed to sort of wait until these guys get their act together before they can do something. I got to tell you, you may be seeing them actually drive themselves off the cliff. It's not going to take any opponents to do that. This was the worst mistake they could have made as far as I'm concerned, and I think they're going to pay very, very dearly for it next year. All
right, let me move on and talk about what happened. We had Jagmeet Singh in here just a couple hours ago. Did you happen to catch any of that?
Yeah.
Would you? By that, I'm going to say you weren't impressed.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay, here's the thing. You're talking to Tom Mulcair at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he probably mentioned, he has a column in today's Gazette. It's posted online saying that, Jagmeet Singh tore up the agreement because he wanted to put as much distance between him and Trudeau as possible because Trudeau is now toxic and it was affecting the party's chances. And I had mentioned this to you a couple of days ago. It's the by-elections in Winnipeg and in Montreal. He's got to win these. His political future is not at stake. But what he's seeing is that there is a chunk of progressive voters who thought, well, no, the NDP, they'll never amount to anything. And they're seeing Trudeau basically dump the federal Liberal Party through a shredder, and they're saying, well, maybe I want to put my vote someplace else. So I think he's seeing that new clientele emerge. So the idea, the first thing is, just push Trudeau away. Any connection with the Liberals is anathema politically in this country henceforth. And I got to tell you, if he scores in Montreal on September 16th and in Winnipeg on September 16th, guess what? A lot of people are going to turn around and say, who are saying that now, they're going to turn around and say, that was a smart move on Singh's part. And you know what? I may trust this guy not to be prime minister. I don't think even he believes he's going to be prime minister. But as head of an opposition, as someone who, if Poilievre gets in, I think I'd much rather have, and this is your typical voter thinking, I'd much rather have Jagmeet Singh facing off with him across the House than Justin Trudeau, or not that he'd be around still, or some equivalent federal Liberal, because their credibility is going to be off the table completely. So yeah, I mean, I think this is the basic thing. So yeah, he comes into town. He does a photo op with Craig Sauvé. It's all good. Although I think right now at this point, Mr. Sauvé is not in need of a boost from Jagmeet Singh. I think he came in there pretty well equipped, and once again, I don't have any skin in this game, and I think Laura Palestini, who's running for the Liberals, is doing a beautiful job, and I wish her the best of luck. But all that said, we may see things turn around for the Liberals in what used to be Paul Martin's riding, and if that happens, as I say, that the Tuesday morning after. You and I are going to, or the Tuesday afternoon, you and I will probably be talking about really and seriously just how many weeks Justin Trudeau's political future can be measured in.
Yeah, but to that point, Joe, I mean, if you're a betting man, I don't think anyone's taken the bet that the NDP would win both in Manitoba and here in Montreal. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you're right. Maybe this move helps him get there or helps the party get there. I don't see it. But then again, let's just kind of flip that in reverse. If they lose both, the NDP in a seat they held out in Manitoba and they lose in Montreal, what does that say about Jagmeet Singh's future?
Well, I said Jagmeet Singh's in big trouble because then he's basically been unable to take advantage of a really mismanaged local opponent in the form of Justin Trudeau. But honestly, I am a betting man, as you well know, Aaron. And I got to tell you, I would say right now, the chances are infinitely better in Montreal than they are in Winnipeg, and I don't think they're that bad in Winnipeg. I think people may be kind of paying a little more attention to what Pierre Poilievre has to say about anything and everything, and they may be turning around and saying, "Nah, I don't think so." Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm fed up with Trudeau, but look, here's a place where I can put my vote with this big orange blob here on my ballot of the NDP, and that way I'll still be true to my progressive ideals, and I won't have to deal with Justin Trudeau.
Fair enough. Jim, I'm going to let you go, but I want you to weigh in on something because I'm going to make this my question. We are going to replay that interview, by the way, with Jagmeet Singh coming up just after 5:30 for the people who missed it because we did it at 2 o'clock. I had a guy on who owns a bar on Saint Denis. The city, after 7 years, after having promised we get one of those 24-hour entertainment zones, i.e. you can drink after 3 o'clock, is about set to introduce this. What do you think? Do we need one of these zones?
The idea was that last call at 3 o'clock, 3 a.m., you had all kinds of people, many of them drunk, some of them looking for a fight, all on the street at the same time. And the idea was, let's stage that out. Let's take that out of the equation. But I remember when it was first announced, and this was when Denis Coderre was mayor as well, people were saying, oh, good. So when I'm going to work, if I live downtown, or even if I commute downtown, if I have to start work at 6 or 7, and I get somebody who's only started to start vomiting from their binge that they had, 45 minutes before, what a wonderful town this is. I think that there was a big problem with that. I would think that, the idea of a zone for 24 hours, I think is a bit problematic as well. But I don't know. The idea that somehow you've got to keep people drinking to keep everyone else safe, there's something wrong with that picture, Aaron.
Okay. James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, have a great weekend.
You too, buddy.